Man United had a resurgent season coming back into the Champions League. And you have Bruno Fernandes getting his and breaking the assist record. And now with the trappings of Champions League success, extra games, and more players to come, the question is, can they do it again next year? Can they challenge? Let's find out right now, right here on Toon Tactics TV, folks.
Brilliant from Shaq. And now Murphy can take on the shot. Fabian Shaq
All right, folks. How are you all doing? I hope you guys are all blessed. Now, tonight's show, as always, I did too much. I've got 101 slides, but I am absolutely looking forward to it. We are going to be doing another series, well, for this season anyway, second series of from a rivals lens. We'll be looking at Man United. Now, you know why I do these things. I want to make sure that we're also keeping an eye out on our rivals. I want to know what they're doing, how they're doing, and what's the prospect in terms of what they're going to be doing in the transfer window as well. And today we are going to be looking at Man United. We're going to be doing we're going to be looking at their finances. We're going to be looking at their squad breakdown, and we're going to be looking at what transfers they could likely need to make in order for them to challenge again. So we've got that to come. Plus, obviously, we're going to be looking again at the Newcastle United squad. Again, that's what we do here. We're going to be looking at Newcastle United emerging transfer links, which actually, not just for Newcastle United, but for all clubs, is actually slowing down a little bit because of the World Cup. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but there are some more links. There's also a scouting report that I was hoping to do with you guys previously that I get to do with you guys, hopefully, in this show, time permitting. So, guys, I'm looking forward to it. As always, thank you again for all your likes, your shares, your subscribes. We've broken that 1,000 barrier, all because of your liking, your sharing, your subscribing. You guys in the comment sections it's always blowing off. It's always doing incredibly well. And I also hope to do this with our special friend of the channel again. Hopefully, when he gets at some point, we'll be able to break it all down with him as well. But I want to thank you guys for everything else as well. Big up to my man James here as well. Good to see you. God bless you, sir. Good connecting with you on the old X as well. And we are going to get that WhatsApp group. I know I'm saying it, but we are going to get that WhatsApp group going as well at some point as well. So I hope you guys are looking forward to it. All right, let's get into it because there's a lot, as always, that we're going to get into. Oof, I almost forgot to switch on my charger on my laptop. I don't know what some of you got. I'm sure, James, some of you remember, hey, when I had that dodgy camera, dodgy mics, sometimes we go on for 5-10 minutes. I'm not even saying anything. Sometimes my guests would have to run the show. So I remember those days. So hopefully we'll keep the laptop on for today as well. So let's get into it. We're going to start when we're talking about Man United. We're going to, as we did with Aston Villa, and I actually wanted to, but I think I'll be doing too much. But I was going to quickly review Aston Villa, what we talked about, because we did the first team we talked about was Aston Villa. But I think I'll be doing too much in terms of going over some of the stuff again. But as always, how I'm going to be laying this out is we're going to be talking about the finances. Then we're going to be talking about the squad. And that kind of gets broken down into squad minutes. Then the squad quality, we're looking at the individual percentiles. We put the minutes and the quality of the squad together to see how resilient that squad is. And then from that, we get to see where the gaps are and what in terms of going forward. And that's when we get to start looking forward into, okay, what transfers, where are the gaps that the team needs to do, and where do they need to get their players in, essentially, and what they need to buy. So a lot to look forward to there as well. So I'm looking forward to doing that with you guys. All right, so Man United. Now, Hold on. Did I just go a little bit too far ahead? I think I might have been too far ahead. Let me just double check something because it's like I skipped the whole financial part on the Man United page. Because I did do a financial section. It's gone right into the squad. So let me just double check myself. But good to see folks coming into the chat as well. As we get on. Where is my... No. Did it not? I did not. Tell me I did it. I know I did it. I was like, come on. Man, did I not get I did it though. I did the financial stuff. What is going on here? Let me find the old finances. Goodness gracious. But good to see you guys. Good to see folks coming into the chat. At the moment, I was just about to get into the Man United's finances, and then I'm like, hold on, where is it? It's all disappeared on me. It has all disappeared on me. I hope it hasn't, because that would be annoying. I might go straight into the squad in that case. But I'll be like, what did I do all that research for? That's going to be annoying. I might have to just break it down in terms of how I remember it, which I can do. But it is annoying. I can't believe it. Where is the? I did the Man United finances. I got the statement out. I got the old. I got their financial statement out and everything. So it is a bit annoying that I can't find it on my old slide that I did. But that will have to be okay. I'll have to just talk about it, which is fine because I remember some of it. But I had numbers and everything else, which is annoying. Let me see. That is annoying. I can't tell you how much annoying that is. But good to see folks get into the chat. I'm all getting ready to start. And then boom, it's not there anymore. That is annoying. All right. I may not get the chance. Come on, where is the old stuff? Good to see my man Ches here as well. Ches, I'm just looking for my old. I did the old finances for Man United, and then I can't find it on my screen. Might be a quick one though, to be honest. And if I can't, well, not quick like sure, but quick thing. If I can't find the old Man United finances that I did, because I did it for Villa, and I did do it for Man United as well. I wonder where it went. Goodness gracious. Oh my word. I cannot find it. Right, if I can't find it in the next 30 seconds, I'm just going to do it from the top of my head. And then we'll break it down from there. And I'm relying on you guys also to help me out on that one. That is annoying. Where is it? Where art thou, Man United finances? Where are you? All right, so put it this way. I had the whole thing. I don't know where those slides went. I can't believe it. Anyway, so let's put it this way. For Man United, they had another record-breaking year where they received about 650 plus in revenue. And one thing you've got to also remember about Man United is that they're actually on the stock exchange, on a stock exchange. So you can actually do some trading on the old stock exchange. I can't remember if it's NASDAQ or if it's NYSE, but they're actually a registered publicly owned company where you can buy and sell stocks. So what does that mean? What that means for folks that might be or might not be aware of how finances work in terms of trading works is that their financial books are open to the public. They have to release them on a quarterly basis. Sometimes, in fact, in the Premier League, we know that teams release are asked to give a public financial accounting once every year, typically in June, before the transfer window opens. And Man United, because they're a publicly listed company, do it literally on a quarterly basis. And from the work and the research I was doing, I think the last one they did was about a month or 2 months before the transfer window opened, and they registered about 650 million in revenue, which is phenomenal in terms of the revenue that they're receiving. And at the same time, though, they've also got really high expenses, which they've been working on for the last couple of years to reduce. So you would have seen a lot of redundancies, for instance. You would have seen a lot of cutbacks in various areas of their company, but you also seen cutbacks in their team in terms of players that have been sold and moved on. Casemiro, for instance, was allowed to run down his contract, was in the 350k contract. So, and despite though making headway in terms of reducing their player wages, they've still got a lot of wages to go. And what I was hoping to show you, I don't know where mysteriously again my slides have gone in terms of the Man United finances. Thankfully, I've got everything else. Is that when you put that against SCR, where how much kind of working out how much financial headroom they have, where it had them interestingly was in and around 72 to 75%, so about 2 to 5% above the 70% that you're allowed to spend, because you're allowed to spend 70% of your revenue on transfers, which includes obviously transfer fees, wages, and agent fees all in one go. So at the time, and obviously this is, I say guesstimate, but we've got their public statement, we've got their finances, and so it's quite open. So it's, when I say it's a guesstimate, so it's speculative, but it's not like just out of thin air. It's used from their actual statements and everything else. So they're on 72 to 75%. And what I was working out is that they are actually going to have to sell to buy. So when they're actually announcing it, they've been talking about it via social media. They have to sell to buy. They have to sell to buy. I know that they're linked to a lot of big players for a lot of money, including Lewis Hall and Tonali and others. But they first have to make room in order to do that. And some of that was made with the fact that they sold Højlund and Casemiro. And I might be off in my estimations, maybe they're a little bit lower than 72, 75. I don't think I am. I don't think I'm too far from it. But they have to sell to buy in order to get those things across. And obviously, they're trying to offload Rashford because Rashford's on 350k. Ugarte, all these players that are on massive wages, they're trying to offload at the moment, and they're not doing too bad a job. But it's going to take them a little bit of while. Some of these guys on very long contracts are taking them a little while to do so. So their transfer window is being shaped in this way. So what's going to be interesting to see, and we're going to see from the squad analysis, that their squad is going to need a lot of work. And we're going to get into that in a moment. But I wanted to give you guys the financial lay of the land of where Man United are. So yes, record level revenue, and that's without Champions League, that's without any competition. You know that this year they got knocked out in all the early rounds. They only played 40 games. So the fact of making this money without Champions League, heaven knows how much they're going to make once they start making the Champions League. But with that also comes high expenses at the moment in terms of players that they've got at the moment. And they're struggling to offload those players as well because they're on such high wages. So the way I see it at the moment, in terms of their financial stuff, and I'm going to go to the chat to get you guys' views and opinions in a moment. The way I see it at the moment is they're very likely on 72, 75% SCR. They're about 2 to 5% over SCR, and if they wish they risk being fined or at some point as well, they might just swallow that fine. I don't know, but they're a little bit above it. they're gonna have to definitely sell some more players before they buy any players. So we'll have to see how that show goes. And I apologize, folks. I literally had it all worked out. I bet you any money. Like I had the slides for it. I bet you any money. The moment I finish the show and I browse through my slides, I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna be like, oh, here they are. Unfortunately, it's not there. So that's the lay of the land as I see it. Where is it? That's the way I see it at the moment. They're gonna have to buy to sell before they make any headway, any room at the moment. That doesn't mean they won't buy players, but they're definitely gonna have to sell players. Ches says, didn't Sir John Hall or Freddie Shepard put us on the stock exchange back in the 90s? Man, that's a good question. I don't think so, because otherwise would still be on the stock exchange. Maybe they plan to do so. I know they would have been ahead of their time had they done that. So I kind of wish almost they did. We might have avoided the 14 years of pain with Mike Ashley. James says, so some info always given how we are looking. So some info always given how we are looking at the market. It's a two-stage system where we have scouts go out and look for certain players, and then they pass over the data studs that puts it into. Yeah, so there's a process that we're going through as well. I know that, and to add to that, James, I think obviously our scouts and our guys, Andy Howe and the rest, Steve Nixon, identify the players. So Eddie Howe would say the type of players he needs. Our scouts and Steve Nixon, Andy Howe would go and Andy Howe to look at the data, Steve Nixon, the eye test, and others the eye test, and do what you said as well, where they kind of transfer that into the data and see what profiles work, and then they all come back together with, I think, Eddie Howe giving the final say on who they try to recruit, depending on the player, especially for the first team. So yeah, but it's worked very well so far, and hopefully it'll continue to work in the summer. James says an AI system to pick up 2 out of the 6 players that they would choose a number 1 to pick number 2, but they want to get a sponsor supporting help system called Garment Proper Information. Oh, that's what they're planning to do. He says this summer transfer database system AI system designed by studs that can move into the long run. So okay, so I think is it Spuds or Studs that came up with this. So an AI system to pick out 2 out of the 6 players that they would choose a number 1 to pick the number 2, but they want to get a sponsor with supporting health system called Garment Proper Information. That's proper. Like that's if you got the article to this, James. Do send it through because I'll be interested to know a little bit more about that. Okay, so let's get into their squad. Let's get into the analysis. And like I said, they're not obviously on thin ice when it comes to finance. They're making record revenue, but they don't have a lot of headroom. If anything, in my calculations, they're a little bit over the headroom, the financial headroom that SCR provides. And I know there's a lot of talk about them buying players. They're also going to have to sell players for sure in order to make room for that. I haven't got the link yet. The Garmin sponsor idea, word of mouth for them. Okay, that's interesting. I wonder how we feel about AI picking out players. All right, so let's get into it. So this is the Man United squad as we see it at the moment, right? Oh gosh, here we go. Here's the Man United squad as we see it. And this is before we do the whole percentile minutes and everything else. But I wanted to kind of lay out first. Obviously, these are I've already got the players that I've played, actual minutes. So you got 21 players. Obviously, you're gonna have 25. I didn't include the players that literally played 100 minutes for the season. But obviously, from the goalkeepers, they've got Sen Lamans and Alte Bayinde, who's only played 540 minutes. It's Sen Lamans who's played the majority of minutes. You've got the fullbacks just below them with Shaw, Dalot, Dorgu, and Mazraoui. Then you've got the centre backs. So they've got five centre backs at the moment with Heaven, Matis Delit, Lisandro, Harry Maguire, and Euro. You typically want, a little bit, maybe one more centre back. Maybe that's why they were linked with Romero recently as well. Then you've got your midfielders, which is going to be a big topic of conversation because midfielders is where they've got like the most improvements to make. With Casemiro's there, but obviously he's left. Fernandes, who's like I said, broke the assist record. Kobe Mainoo, who had an incredible season, had a mixed season, and Amorim wasn't played a lot at all. Then Carrick would just play under Carrick. He was playing all the time. Mason Mount, who had very limited time with 1,000 minutes, and Manuel Ugarte, very similar amount of minutes as well as him. Then you've got their forwards, and these are the guys who Man United invested a lot of money in from the previous summer. We know that because we chased, for instance, the likes of Šeško, couldn't get him because of after losing the race to Man United. But they've scored a lot of goals for them, and I think are a big reason as to why they achieved what they achieved with Matheus Cunha, Brian Mbeumo, Benjamin Sesko, Joshua Zirkzee, and Ahmad Diallo. So their squad, they've got actually, what I realized as well is that Man United got a young squad. They've got a very young squad. The average age of 26.4 years, which is phenomenal, really. I think that's something that Newcastle will be aiming to do for our squad, which is to reduce the age of the squad itself. So I think that's one of the first things that surprised me about Man United squad is the fact that they were that young as well. So I thought that was the first thing that was interesting. Raymond says, "Hi, Toon Tactics. Hello, sir. Raymond, good to see you. God bless you. Philip, how are you? Jacqueline Ewan flying into Newcastle now. I think he's landed. And El Mala and Dusan Blanchford should sign for Newcastle." El Mala? Who's El Mala? Oh, you mean Said El Mala? Yeah. We'll see. El Mala needs to make sure he stop trying to get teams to buy his brother too. I think once he does that, then it becomes a little bit easier to buy him. All right, so now I've put the squad minutes into order here, so we can see who are the core starters, the strong rotations, the rotational squad, and the fringe squad. So you can see they've got 8 players who you'd class as core starters. They're the players that played 2,500 minutes plus. Now you have to remember, folks, that Man United have played 40 games this season. So way less compared to what Newcastle and Aston Villa have done this season. I'm trying to remember how much I think we're like on 55. You got the total minutes, they played 42,000. I think both Aston Villa and Newcastle played like 55 plus thousand minutes more. So we had, for instance, for Villa, Morgan Rogers played 4,500 minutes. Morgan Rogers played 4,500 minutes. For us, I think Dan Burn played 4,100, 4,200 minutes. Remember, Villa reached the final of the Europa, plus they reached third in the Premier League, so they played a lot of games. So if you compare that to Man United, right, I think the player who's played the most minutes for them, it looks like it's Luke Shaw, I think it is, on 3,233 minutes, just about 13 more minutes than Bruno Fernandes. But that's the most minutes that any one player Man United has played, and that's still more than 1,000 minutes plus less than what Morgan Rogers or Dan Burn have played as well. So that gives you kind of a comparison and a take on the squad itself. So 8 players played 2,500 minutes and more. with Lamens, Shaw, Dalot, Fernandes, Casemiro, Cunha, and Mbeumo. You can, in the minutes, like I said, are an indicator of who the important players are and who's been available for them as well. So you can see it from then. Obviously, Bruno Fernandes, who's probably their player of the season, possibly player of the Premier League season, depending on how the votes go, is there. Then you've got the strong rotation. These are the regular starters and key rotation options for the squad, with your Amads, your Euros, Sesko, Meno, and Maguire and Dogu. So you've already got, obviously, Sesko, who's one of their buyers over the summer that who was there. And then you've got Dogu, I think, who was bought in January window, who's there as well. I forgot to mention for the core minutes, and Mbeumo, Cunha are there already in the core minutes as well. So they've made good use of their players that they paid a lot of money for. Then you've got your rotational squad players. These are important squad players. These are players who are used across the season. They'll typically be on the bench or coming off the bench, covering injuries and suspensions. But also they probably themselves have been injured. So I think if Martinez and De Ligt were fit, both suffered injuries, they would have a lot more minutes. Mount's a little bit different. I think he's more of a squad player for them with Ugarte. Heaven is an academy player who's coming through. Mazraoui, who's had injuries as well. Xerxes, I think, is out of favour. So there's a mix there in terms of what they have, but they've got 8 players there who are there. We're going to get confirmation for Joaquin. Who's Joaquin? Do you guys mean Ewan? Or do you mean Joaquin Says? Guys, let me know. Do you mean Joaquin Says the left back? Or are you guys talking about Ewan, the goalkeeper? Because I thought Raymond was talking about the goalkeeper, but it sounds like James is talking about Joaquin Says. All right, so what does that mean? So to summarize, Man United have got core 8 players, so that's 61.8% of all their minutes are played by these 8 players that we mentioned earlier. That is Lamens, Shaw, Dalot, Fernandes, Casemiro, Cunha, and then Mbeumo. And just remember, Casemiro has left the team. Well, his contract has run out. So there's a heavy reliance over the season on those 8 players. So it shouldn't be seen as a major concern, but it suggests that, for instance, Man United are relying on a core group rather than spreading minutes across the squad. So, for instance, if you remember that we talked about Liverpool and Leverkusen last season, they had quite a bit of players. They had more than 11 players, 13, 14 players who were playing a lot of minutes together, which shows you, a squad that's got quality, a squad that's deep, and that is spread over. And if you could imagine, if Man United's squad stays as it is, where 8 players are playing the majority of their minutes, that puts you take that into next year, where they're going to have the extra Champions League. They're going to be expected to move forward in their domestic cups. It's going to take a strain on those 8 players, and so it essentially means that they're going to need some support with that. So they do have a strong first 11. They have, in terms of that, they have decent defensive depth, and they were able to achieve 3rd place despite injuries, in particular to their defensive area. But we're going to see their injuries in a moment, and if I got in the moment, they've been fairly fortunate with that as well. But as I mentioned, 50, 60 games next season is going to place huge demands on that squad. So they need a lot of improvements. They need a lot of depth if they're going to be able to manage that. And in order to spread those minutes, ideally, if you're Man United, if you've got 8 players, and it's 7 at the moment because Casemiro's left, you have 7 players who you guys depend on heavily. You ideally want it to be more than the first 11, right? You want it to be 12, 13 players, so who are the core of the team, and then you've got your squad rotations in order to be able to do that, right? So you need to deepen your squad by at least 4 or 5 players in order to kind of really be able to have a good season as well. Okay, Ewan, the goalkeeper. Thanks for that, James. So that's where they're at in terms of their depth. I think they're 4 or 5 players short for next season, but the players they've had now, and we're going to talk about the quality a little bit later, were more than enough to get them into that Champions League place at the expense of domestic competitions and obviously Europe itself. So this is the part where we look at their quality of their squad, and you guys will remember. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? How we look at the quality of their squad. Just to quickly go to here, these are the metrics. So you guys, for those that aren't aware, I use data MB metrics. So this allows you to look at individuals, but also the team metrics themselves. And in this instance, for instance, I give an example here. I've got all of Man United midfielders together in this particular metric, right? So when I give the average percentile of what that is, obviously 100 percentile is the elite, and 90 is elite, 80, and then you're going to get obviously getting lower and lower. I'm giving the average overall kind of metric of what their midfield is. Obviously, you're going to have some outstanding players in there, like for instance, Bruno Fernandes, whose forward passing is at 87 percentile, whose key passing is at 99 percentile. So, at the very, very elite, at the very, very, very top. But then you're going to have players like Ugarte, who's on 0.2 for key passes at the extreme poverty end. So I'm going to give an overall average percentile of those players themselves. So in case anybody was wondering how we're working out these percentiles, that's how we're doing it, right? So I think I went the wrong way there. Okay, so right, so let's look at the quality of their squad. Is it this one? Right, so let's look at the quality of their squad, right, in terms of the overall. And this is not including the minutes. So you've got, and also too, if you guys, what it means is you can see at the bottom right and bottom left. So when we're looking at if anybody's 70 percentile or above, they're like genuine Champions League caliber uh, player, but also part of the team, because obviously I averaged it out on goalkeepers, centre backs, full backs, midfielders, forwards, and strikers, and you've got overall average takes on all of them. So 70 percentile is Champions League level caliber, challenging for the league level as well. Anything between 50 to 69 percentile, you're looking at a competitive Premier League level team. Anything from 40, 49 is mid-table quality. And anything below 40s, you're looking at significant weaknesses. You're looking at a team that's fighting relegation, right? Which Man United don't have anything anywhere near that in any part of their squad. But if you look at if we start with their goalkeeping department, you've got Lamans and you've got Altay Bayinde. When you average out that quality of the squad, it's on 32 percentile. And so I can imagine some Man United fans and others being who might think this is extreme. Like, how can Lamans has had a sensational year for them. He's a very solid goalkeeper, and I absolutely agree. Where I add a lament is this: when I looked at his percentiles and I looked at Man United as a system and as a team, why Bayinder's like his own individual percentile is low is mainly because your defense is so good. So that's why it's important to. That's why whenever you look, we always do this here. We want to be able to understand players' metrics within the system of the team they play for. So if you look at Man United's defensive numbers, they're one of the top teams for defensive numbers in the league, and very few quality shots they concede very few quality shots against them. So that's how the percentile's gone up. That's how the percentile's so low. But if you take the eye test and you watch Lamans, you can see that he's a highly, highly competent keeper and the real gem. in terms of who they found. But so I wanted to kind of add that context as well. Centre backs, if you take the overall quality again, is at 49 percentile, which would suggest that it's in terms of it's a mid-table quality team there, which is interesting to see, to hear as well. Considering that they've got talents like Lisandro Martinez, Mateus de Ligt, and others, and I think it's interesting that it's lacking in those qualities. I think primarily this would be because, and I had it here actually. I wanted to look at it, but I don't know if I can show it to you guys, because I do have the defenders up here as well, Man U defenders. Let me see if I can show you guys to kind of get an idea as to why it is the way it is. Here we go. Let me share this with you. You guys can see that. So that's Man United's percentile. You guys will see Euro, Maguire, De Ligt, Martinez, and Heaven. If you kind of, and obviously you've got to kind of average it out in terms of where they are. And what you kind of already see is when it comes to like passes, apart from Martinez, all the other players score fairly average percentiles. And so you're going to see it drop over there. And if you look at aerially, apart from Maguire, who's at the elite level, then in terms of winning aerial duel percentages, the next in line is De Ligt, and De Ligt is on an average 50. Where was it? On 56 percentile, and it gets lower and lower there, right? So it's a bit of a mishmash of where players are. The defenders are pretty good at carrying the ball. Most players, forward passes are pretty good, but passes get slower. Aerial gets there's a lack there, and progressive passes. If you don't have Martinez, again, it's vital to that. It gets a little bit lower. It gets the next quality one is Euro, and then it gets lower and lower. So I think that's where you're kind of getting let down a little bit, which is your aerial wins and your progressive passes and your passes in general, especially playing from out the back. I think that is part of the reason why Man United's overall percentile in terms of the squad is fairly low, as you can see there. I wanted to see that. Otherwise, in terms of ball carrying in other areas, it's pretty good. Stop sharing that screen. Get back onto this one as well. James says, what would they do without Bruno Fernandes? We're going to go into him in a moment. He's been phenomenal for them. Am I the one that likes Mazraoui? He's a decent player. Why is Ollie Wilkinson here? Ollie Wilkinson. Emiliano Bruno Vista player. Emiliano Bueno Aston Villa players. Really? Have I got mine? Where? I think you got it mixed up. That's a good catch, man. That's a good catch. Sometimes the names get mixed up, but don't worry, the percentiles have been mixed up. That's the old AI. But good catch there. Appreciate that. That's so annoying with this thing sometimes. Okay, so despite having a really good year defensively, there's some work for Man United to be there. Their fullbacks, though, is pretty decent. They're in the 57 percentile. You've got them compared to Premier League level. Luke Shaw playing a lot of minutes. Diogo Dalot. Mazraoui is pretty decent as well. And Patrick Dorgu, though both of them, I think, have had injuries this season, hence why they played fairly low. Their midfield area, which obviously is the one that's highlighted the most, if you look at the percentiles, isn't the lowest. It isn't the lowest compared to, for instance, their centre backs. But it's certainly. I'm sure a lot of Man United fans will argue that it needs some support. It's certainly at the competitive Premier League level, but I think the big reason of that is your Bruno Fernandes is the man himself who is the record break assister as well. So if I In fact, if I get their midfield up, oh, that's their forwards. Where's their midfield? Here we go. If I talk a little bit individually about their midfield, and I show what I mean. Window, here we go. So can you guys see that? No, you can't. Oh yeah, you can see that. Brilliant. You can see that. Right. So, I lost my screen. Where am I? I'm trying to find my screen. Where is it? Here we go. Man United midfield. So you can see, for instance, Bruno Fernandes, elite level key passes. That's passes that lead to shots on goal. Elite level progressive passes, elite level forward passes, and elite level or very very good level in terms of ball carrying. But if you also see the drop off after the key pass, if you see the drop off, the next two closest ones are Mount and Casemiro. Casemiro they've just sold. So you're right, for instance, James and others. Without Bruno, this midfield suffers seriously when it comes to creatively itself. They also would suffer. Casemiro is when it comes to progressive passes, Casemiro is the next one after Bruno Fernandes. He's at a very, very good level. In fact, a very elite, close to elite level progressive passer, but he's gone now. So they need someone to be able to supplement that. Hence why the links to Elliot Anderson and players of that ilk. So there's a big gap there in terms of that, and Fernandes essentially fills those gaps. So those are going to be some of the key areas for them. I think with Casemiro gone as well, they're going to suffer. They might. There's also a need, for instance, you can see in terms of their possession one and dual percentage wins. He's particularly in possession. He's the overall kind of winner in that midfield. Together into dual percentage wins of Ugarte, but Ugarte is not favoured because of his lack of quality in every other area of the midfield. Progressive passes, key passes, forward passes, percentages, carrying is weak apart from dual percentages. He still doesn't get to play much. So their main ball winner is Casemiro, who they've sold as well, or whose contract's run out. So without Casemiro, Man United would suffer in terms of a player who can win possession and win his duels, as well as provide progressive passes. So both Casemiro and Fernandes add a lot to this team, a lot to the squad in terms of winning the ball and being creative with it. So those are the big areas that Man United really need support in terms of if they're gonna really do well next season. And at the moment, but it was enough for them to get into the Champions League. But again, areas for them to work out on what they're doing. But that's why they're scoring. If you're wondering, if you're Man United fan and you're thinking, how are you scoring this so low? When you look at it, when you kind of break it down, you can see how, yes, Man United have some extreme levels of quality in your Bruno Fernandes's, for instance, in the midfield, your Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro. In your centre backs, you've got your Martinez with the passing, Harry Maguire with the aerial duels. But then from there, the drop off is huge. The drop off is huge, right? Then you've got your forwards. Obviously, you don't have Oli Watkins or Buendia, so you can take that off. But in terms of your forwards, Mateo, you're in the 56. We're going to do forwards and strikers. Let's do the forwards. So Mateus Cunha, Brian Mbuemo, and Ahmad Diallo. We've got them in the 56th percentile there, which again, some might find a little bit low considering they've scored a lot of goals and they've got Man United to where they are. So let me just take this one off. Let me show you Man United's forwards and we'll do a little bit of breakdown on them. Oh, that's their strikers. Where's their forwards? Defenders, here we go. Man United forwards. and we'll break it down a little bit and see where we're at with them. So share this. So they're in the 56th percentile, which is a competitive Premier League team. Okay, so can you guys see that? Yeah, you can. Brilliante. So let me get back on it. I always have to refine it again. These slides is everywhere. All right, so where am I? Forwards, that's midfielders. Forwards. So Diallo, Cunha, and Mbeumo. And again, you can see in terms of non-penalty goals XG and assists and non-penalty goals, you've got both, I think it's Cunha and Mbeumo doing, especially non-penalty goals, getting into those elite levels. So they've got two quality players in those areas, which is good. Then you've got non-penalty goals and assists with Mbeumo really getting into the elite levels of Cunha, like in the very good levels there as well, together with Diallo. So they've got some good forward play, and then you've got key passing with Mbeumo in the kind of 70. Where is the key passes in the 75 percentile? So good level as well. Cunha a little bit further, with Diallo just a little bit next to him there. But the other outstanding areas, so apart from non-penalty goals XG and non-penalty goals, you've got the carry, both Diallo, Cunha. I thought Mbeumo would be higher than that, but he's not. But those guys are kind of heading into close to the elite levels there as well. With the only other dribbler though is Cunha, I think, as well. So I think part of the reason why I think some of their stats in those areas like crossing is fairly low. I think they could have a little bit more dribblers, is because, and key passes, is because you've got the likes of Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro, who provide the ball carrying, who provide the creativity, who provide the line-breaking passes, which is where Man United excel. So I think that's why, for instance, those type of areas are fairly low for them. But with those kind of outstanding players playing behind them, essentially you're going to find Mbeumo, Cunha getting into the box a lot more often and being able to get assists and goals more than other players. And I think that's been Man United's kind of winning strategy this season, is the provision and the creativity of the likes of Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro. James says, do you happen to have the numbers between Bruno Fernandes and Ederson? I don't, but I can look at it a bit later. I think Ederson is not really. Do you mean Ederson, the player they bought? Because I think he's. I don't think he's that much of a creative player. Let me see if I can find it while we're here. What would they be? I'm not even sure if Ederson would be. Maybe he would be. I was going to say, would Ederson be? What you have to remember though as well is that Ederson's playing for Atalanta and Bruno's playing for Man United, so you never really want to. When you say numbers, do you mean assists and goals? Because you have to remember they play for two different systems. I mean, I'll show it, but I think they play for two different systems, so you're going to get something a little bit different. So where is it? I think this is it. Right. So this is Ederson and Bruno Fernandes. Fernandes is in the pink and Ederson's in the blue. And if we're looking at creative numbers, I think you were saying. So if you look at key passes, obviously there's not many people got to be close to Fernandes from 99.8. Ederson goes into the 69th percentile, which is still very, very good. Progressive passes, again, Ederson's very good, but nowhere near the level of Fernandes. I don't think it's a like-for-like in replacement with Ederson. Forward passes, they're pretty good as well. Progressive carries, Fernandes is probably getting to the elite level, whereas Fernandes is very, very good level. I think Ederson's the Casemiro replacement, because if you look at his possession one stats, he's in the 73 percentile. His dual winning percentage is in the 54th percentile. Again, all higher than Bruno Fernandes. So for me, if I was to look at it, I think Ederson is the Casemiro replacement rather than the Bruno Fernandes replacement. Yeah, here we're saying, Raymond, about selling to Amanda Staveley. Will let me know what your thoughts are on Man United and what you're seeing. James says he was meant to be the replacement that creative midfield, but I can't. No, I don't think Ederson is the creative replacement. I think he's the midfielder replacing Casemiro. I think he's a midfielder in terms of ball winning midfielder first, and then creative second. James says, I don't know certainly what they're going to do because of the information I got about it. He was going to be the creative replacement for Fernandes. No, definitely not the replacement. Like, not to the level of what Fernandes is doing. I can't see that. Not for me anyway. And obviously, we've got the striker element, which is in the 59th percentile with Benjamin Šeško and Xerxes. They've got those two number 9s there. Obviously, Xerxes only played 645 minutes, whereas Benjamin Šeško has played 1,800 minutes in his first season. It's going to be interesting to see if Man United do anything in the strikers department. Are they going to add somebody else as well? I'm sure that they're looking to move on Xerxes, but again, he's on high wages. And who wants him at this stage? Who wants Joshua Xerxes is going to be the situation for them. But let me have a quick look at the strikers, at the breakdown of their strikers before we move on. Because that looks like another area that might need some work. Well, Xerxes doesn't even come on the stats because he's so low. Because as you guys will know, Data MB only looks at players who have played 1,000 minutes or more, which Joshua Xerxes has not. So Joshua Xerxes is not even on here. This is just Benjamin Šeško. And you can see he's in the elite level for Aerials 1, which you kind of suspect was going to happen. In very good levels for non-penalty goals as well. Very elite levels there and non-penalty goals as well there. So he's getting himself in the right areas. I think, again, with the likes of Bruno Fernandes being the creative spark for the team, he's going to get himself into dangerous areas more often than not. And he probably could have had a little bit more goals if his conversion rate is actually fairly high. It's still 66 percentile, still good to very good. But he could have got a little bit more if he begins to move into the elite levels. He's just above average in terms of touches in the box, but that's not Man United's way. Man United's way is to play counter-attacking football rather than high pressing, winning the ball high, and dominating the pitch in possession in the final third. So I think if Man United evolve their style of play and become that team, I think you're going to see Šeško with a lot higher touches in the box. But for me personally, I think there's some really promising. I think personally there's some really good numbers for Benjamin Šeško. I think Xerxes though is definitely out of favour. 600 plus minutes, lacking the quality, and I think it's definitely someone that needs to be replaced. James says, I need at least 2, but there's nothing in their planning suggesting they're going to get another striker. Well, and that might go back to the fact that their financial situation, where it's a buy to sell. I wonder if they sell Xerxes, would they get another striker? I don't know. That's the part that is fascinating to me. But the midfield is where they're really trying to put in a lot of work. And you can see why, especially with Casemiro gone. The next player of that ilk would have been Ugarte. So hence why they bought Ederson. So for me, Ederson is the Casemiro replacement. James says, I can't chat, but I'm listening. No problem, Chairs, man. No problem. Appreciate you, man. James says, Šeško isn't in the national team, surprisingly. Oh, really? What, for the World Cup? No way. No way. That's got to be a who would they play instead of Sheshko? Right. So that's how their team is panning out. And like I was saying earlier, in terms of resilience, squad resilience, and this is why I don't think they've had tests, but not what a season where they're going to be playing 55 games. And this is looking at their injury list. And really the core part, the kind of the most, I guess, painful time they've had, if I can call it that, is between game week 11 and game week 22. So somewhere in the middle part of the season, where they had injured Lissandro Martinez and Harry Maguire, but they've also had Mazraoui on. I think he must have went to Africa Cup of Nations. And then you've also had Mbeumo and Diallo go off to the Africa Cup of Nations as well. But a real focus on their defensive areas where they had, like I said, Mazraoui, Lissandro, and Maguire out for that period of time, which would have been testing for them. And testing also in their creative part for Mbeumo and Amad Diallo in terms of their attack. But I think they actually did quite well in their attacking period in that sort of game. Again, they didn't have the sort of injuries that you could have with playing more games, and this is where I think their squad hasn't been tested. It would have been interesting if, and not wishing injuries, but if Casemiro wasn't playing, what would happen to Man United? If Fernandes wasn't playing, what would happen to Man United? You can say that for any team. You know, what happens if their key players aren't playing? But that is a question that you have to ask and kind of to be able to test the resilience of the squad. So, from my point of view, yes, for instance, De Ligt has been out for most of the season, more than 2/3 of the season. Martinez has been out for like a third of the season. And there was that period between the 12-week and 20-week period where it was particularly testing for them. But overall, in my view, they've been fairly. Patrick Dorg has been out as well, but they've they've been fairly in a good spot. They've been fairly fortunate with injuries as well, which I'm sure they'll be grateful for. So, in my point of view, this squad in terms of injuries wasn't really tested. Hence why I'm sure they're not, they're not kind of, they're not. I hope. Well, not me. I don't hope, but I'm sure the Man United recruitment team would be aware of that. I don't know how much Man United fans are aware of that um, because maybe they are. It depends who you talk to. I get the feeling online, and this might be because they had a good season. A lot of opposition fans consistently remind Man United fans, for instance, you didn't have the Champions League, you didn't play in Europe, so you don't really know how good this team is. And I think there's truth in that. Whereas I think Man United fans will say, "Look, we've we've had a terrible time the previous season. Look how much we've improved this season." So I think there's a balance in that in terms of what's going on as well. Good to see folks from United TV. Oh, thank you for the I forgot what you call it, for the raid. Richie from United TV. Big up to yourselves. God bless you. Big up Rob, always United, and United TV. Big up Philip. Thank you so much, guys. Really, it would have been really keen to hear your views on things as well. Always a privilege to have opposition fans join the channel. So we were just going through your guys' squad quality, and we looked at data MB and kind of averaged out your scores just for you guys to know. And we've got your goalkeeping area in the 32nd percentile, which is very low. You might think, why is it? Lament is an immense keeper. The only reason I think the percentile is low is because you've got a really good defense. Centre backs at 49 percentile, full backs at 57 percentile, which is competitive Premier League team. Midfield 58 percentile, forwards 56 percentile, and strikers at 57 percentile. So Let me know what you guys think of that. So overall, like I said, overall, if you cover the whole squad quality for Man United, and this is looking at obviously from the data MB taken from this, right? If you look at Man United's overall, oh no, we're going to get to that in a moment. Sorry, squad quality that we just looked at, individual quality for each department here, and you kind of average out all the players from the best to the weakest to the average. You got a 52nd percentile team, which is basically a competitive Premier League team, but which is what they have. Their strongest units are strikers in the 59th percentile, then it's midfielders in the 58th percentile, and then it's their fullbacks in the 57th percentile. Weakest is the goalkeeper, but again, I think that's because their defense has been so good. If you watch the goalkeeper, you know that he's really, really good. And a core of 8 players, that's 61%, 61.8%. So a core of 8 players played 61.8% of all Man United of Man United's minutes. So it's suggesting a reliance on a small core group. And if you also take in consideration that one of those players was Casemiro, who's no longer at Man United, that shows you that, and I think I get that Edison's going to come in, but it lets you know that that particular core group of players is getting even smaller. Ideally, you want to have a core group of players that's playing 2,000. So you had that's in Man United's case, core group means those that have played 2,500 minutes or more, because obviously you haven't played that many minutes because you didn't you weren't in Europe and you didn't go far in domestic competitions. But so players that played 2,500 minutes or more are classed as core players or played the most minutes. Ideally, you want more than their first 11. So you want 12, 13, 14 players who have played, a good chunk of minutes for the team, because it shows a spread of minutes, a spread of quality, and a spread of depth, which at the moment, in my opinion, Man United are lacking probably about 4 or 5 players in those areas who can do that. What's good, Jonathan? Good to see you, sir. God bless you. Always good to see you. Hope all is well with you. So, that's what the percentile is for Man United. I think, like I said, I think they're 4 to 5 players short. So I wouldn't be surprised if they brought in that amount of players. Then if you look at how the team has performed this year, so obviously we looked at the quality of individual players, but if you look at how the team has performed this year, it's actually their overall percentiles are very, very good in different areas. So for instance, when it comes to goal scoring, they're in the 83rd percentile. That's pretty much getting into that's probably in the elite level, if not just below elite level to elite level, in my opinion. When it comes to attacking, 85th percentile, again, into the elite level. But then they've got big players like Bruno Fernandes, who I think was phenomenal in providing that level of counter attack and that level of creativity. Then you've got their counter attacking. It's at the 100th percentile. You cannot get any higher than that. They are the elite of counter attacking football. Again, I think that's a style that's going to have to evolve as they play in the Champions League and have more competition and teams get used to the way they play. But that's what they were able to achieve. Quick breaks, vertical passes, quick vertical passes into your Buemos, into your Sheshkos, into your Cunhas. And that's why they was able to have such a good attacking stats as well as goals as well, which is good, really, really good. Defending in the 74th percentile, so very, very good again as a team. Possession, 67th percentile, so still good. Physicality, and because they didn't want to have possession, they wanted to counter attack as much as possible. Physicality is where Man United, physicality and pressing are the areas where Man United lacked. Now, some of it is due to tactics in terms of how they play. They want to be able to counter attack as much as possible. But I think But the reason why Man United are so counter-attack heavy is because they don't have the players at the moment who can provide the physicality and the pressing. And in both those areas, they're pretty much in the average category, in the 55 percentile for physicality and the 58 percentile for pressing. So what this tells me, and I have to remember this, is that Man United had two managers this season. One is Amorim, and the other one is Carrick. So it's difficult to kind of separate the stats between both of those managers, especially if you're looking at the kind of data MB as a whole. It doesn't make a differentiation between what was achieved between different managers. So you kind of have to make your mind up between those situations there. And I think maybe that's where also the counter argument for Man United fans is you don't really know how good we are, considering we've had two different managers. So there's still, even in the current squad they have, I would argue there is still some untapped potential of what they could achieve. Like, how good would these individuals perform, perhaps, if Carrick was there at the beginning? Even though I don't think, in my opinion, Amorim's uh, I, I think the team still performed and achieved good metrics under Amorim himself as well. Obviously, there'll be some Man United fans that will definitely argue against that. So, what's interesting, like I said, when you look at when you kind of break down the squad quality in goalkeepers, fullbacks, defenders, midfielders, attackers, and you kind of look at the overall average, it's like a Man United are a good competitive Premier League side. When you put them together as a team in a system, they produce good to very good stats when it comes to goals, attacking, and counter attacking, and pretty good stats at defending possession. So that lets you know that the systems that they would been playing under were achieving really good results of the players they had, plus the individual brilliance. You have to say brilliance of your Bruno Fernandes in particular, whose elite level stats really, really helped carry the team and brought the best out of your Mbuemos, your Sheshkos, and your Cunhas. Hence why their attacking and their goal stats were so very good. So, in conclusion, for Man United, Man United have a largely fixed attack through Cunha and Buemo, Sheshko, and Alad Fernandez. The next stage of squad building, goalkeeper, defensive midfield or midfielder, creative midfield, and in the centre back areas. This would help improve your physicality, your defensive stability, and potentially moving Man United from a 52nd percentile squad to a genuine Champions League level squad, which is at 66, between a 60 to 65 percentile squad. And there's a lot of work to do in those areas. I think obviously goalkeeper probably isn't the priority because you got Lamens. But if Lamens gets injured or suspended is unavailable, the next level is Bayendir, and he's not very good at all, right? Then you got to find someone to replace Casemiro. I think you've done that with Edison. You need to keep Bruno Fernandes. I don't know if he's going to stay. If he doesn't stay, there's a big gap there that you have to fill in terms of your midfield as well. And I think you're also looking potentially for a third midfielder there. I would argue you also need you need centre back depth because your squad is aging and you're going to be playing more games. Alden Maguire and I think Lenny Euro it is that who played the majority of the games did very well. You've still got De Ligt and you've got Lisandro Martinez, but I would argue that, and you got Aiden Heaven as backup. I would argue that you probably need another centre back to add that extra quality of depth. So around 5 or 6 players to get you guys into a Champions League level squad, in my opinion. So for me, Man United did have a good system of and a way of playing, that counter-attacking, fast-paced style with some real good, but also a good defensive unit. With individual brilliance of your Bruno Fernandes's. However, with your team, the squad wasn't really tested by injuries to a greater extent. Yes, there was a period where you didn't really have, where you had some of your defenders missing in a particular group of time, but that was like the main part, and you had players on international duties, but it wasn't. I think the most I'd say is maybe that's an average to just above average testing of your squad. I think once you start playing Champions League, it's going to get even more tested in squad rotation. And when you've got 8 players playing the majority of your minutes, it shows you that you've got it shows a real kind of lack of quality and depth, and that becomes even more fragile the more minutes and more games you've played. So, in my humble opinion, you're probably about 4 or 5 players short of having a Champions League level team. And if we look at your finances, and you've got where you've done really well revenue wise, you've still got high expenses. And according to the calculations that I've seen, you're a little bit over your SCR at the moment. So you're going to have to sell more players. So it's going to be an interesting transfer window for Man United. I have no doubt that you will probably get the players that you want to get. The only thing that could hold you back if you can't sell the players that you already have. And in my view, if you don't get a minimum of 2 midfielders, a defender, a centre in terms of a centre back, and possibly also striker depth, although there's different levels of priority, and a quality backup keeper. So about 5, 6 players. Some obviously your midfield and your centre backs a little bit more important. 4 to 6 players, but 4 core players, especially in your midfield, you could have a really, really difficult season. So yeah, man, let me know what you guys think. But overall, Man United's team has performed that really well, outstandingly well. The managers, either been Amorim or Carrick, by the system they've created, did the best with the players that they had, and achieved it really, really well. The squad is going to have a lot more tests coming up in the next season. Now, Kane, good to see you, sir. God bless you. Now says, big ups, mate. Congrats on 1K. Thank you so much, sir. Are you getting monetization yet moving forward? Yeah, I think I am actually. I think I'm valid for that. So it's a very good question now. So I'll probably be thinking about how to start memberships and things of that nature, and see where we take it to. But yeah, it's a great question. Yes, so yes, that's definitely in the works, and thank you for that. Now, and great question as well. So yeah, James. Oops, James, I nearly banned you again by accident. Sorry. In the defense, yeah. Even though I think Man United fans haven't really. Whenever I hear Man United fans talking about what needs improvement, they rarely mention the defense, because the midfield is it's a big gap for them. But in my opinion, I think the defense is, when I saw the links to Romero, and I know that was quickly pushed down, initially I thought good move, very good move. I think Romero will answer a lot of questions for you guys aerially and what's going on the floor, and in terms of passing and breaking between the lines. Yes, the disciplinary issues. Yes, sometimes not the most personable and liked players. But I think he would have been a good addition. Thank you for that, Rob. Thank you. Absolutely incredible. Just sub. Absolutely amazing for you, sir. Thank you. God bless you. Yeah. So in conclusion, Man United financially doing very well in terms of creating revenue. However, and they're making headway in cutting expenses, but it's a big, big job to get that down. My opinion, going into the transfer window, I'm going to be a lot more focused on who and what Man United managed to sell more than I am who they managed to buy. They had a good start in selling Hoyland. They need to continue selling if they're going to be able to get those 4 or 5 players. I think they need to create a Champions League level squad. They've had an incredible year, performed really, really well as a team, especially in the attacking, goal scoring, and creativity areas, with some real individual brilliance from the likes of Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro. But now they've got to start adding that depth, and I think they've actually got to add some more quality, and that's going to cost. Whether they can do it, I have no doubt that their name and their pulling power, they'll be able to get the players they want. But they need to sell at an elite level or a very good level to be able to get those players across the line, in my opinion. So, all to play for Man United in this coming season, but they are in a good but challenging state. If I compare them to Villa, for instance, Villa are also in a good way. I think Villa have their SCR situation. We talked about it, but they're a little bit more comfortable than Man United, ironically. But they too have to buy to sell. They've got the looming situation of they sold their stadium to themselves, and that's going to create some serious SCR problems for them because I think it's UEFA that don't take it. Bobby made that point to them, so they're in a state where in fact, they're not they're in a better SCR state, but if they don't sell enough players this year, it's going to cause them a lot of problems and heartache next year. Who's in the better state at the moment in terms of squad wise? Trying to remember where I had Villa. I need to conclude them a little bit better. I'm not gonna guess at the moment. I think Villa got the better squad overall. In fact, I do have them somewhere here. I think Villa have the better squad overall. Let me remind myself. Do they have? I think what's similar though is that they've got individual. So obviously, Man United got Bruno Fernandes and Villa got Morgan Rogers. I haven't got it here. I'm gonna make some comparisons. Start making comparisons between these teams. But it's certainly in kind of. I think Villa maybe just about got the better overall team, but we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, Man United. I'm going to be focusing. I'm going to be focusing on the sales you make. I'm sure once those sales are made, you will get the players that you want across the line. But young squad as well overall. But the quality players like your Bruno Fernandes, your Casemiro's who's left now are getting older. So you're in an interesting situation, kind of going forward as well. So yeah, man. So that's Man United, folks. Let me know what you guys think about that. Right. So what I wanted to do today is before we do our scouting of a player that's been talked about, is because I was hoping that our man Mitch would be able to join us today, but he's just let me know that he's not able to make it tonight, which is cool. But it gives us an opportunity also to talk with you guys. James says, I'm still concerned about this position, but I've heard no plans to get another striker. For Man United or for Newcastle? I'm sure you mean for Newcastle. You won't be concerned for Man United. I think we are going to get another striker if you're talking about Man United. It will depend on who we manage to move on. My hope is that it's not a Sola, but we're going to have to move somebody on. And actually, speaking of the squad as well, so because what I wanted to talk about with Mitch and you guys, and we kind of did it last time. Where is it? because we've had some updates, obviously, as well. So that's Villa squad. Yeah, Villa squad isn't too far from Man United, to be honest. But they're older. Look, if you Villa played 55,000 minutes compared to Man United's like 40,000 minutes. So Man United's squad is untested. But I wanted to there was a part. There's so many things that's missing from my slides. It's annoying me. Hold on. Maybe I might have to share. I might have to go old school. I might have to go old school and just oh, here we go. How come it's not on here? So I wanted to update my list, my squad list. Should be slide 80. Oh, it is. Brilliant. So annoying. I thought I missed out here. Okay. Right. So before we do the scouting profile. Right. So a couple updates we've had in terms of exits. Obviously, where is it? 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 Who's the player I was thinking of? With no Kieran Trippier's left, obviously exit. Rudy's left. Gordon's left. I think Matt Target. I should put him in the exit. Really, he's on his way. But Nick Pope, I've got Nick Pope in that. I had Nick Pope previously in the median. I think it's Nick Pope I'm talking about. But with recent news that essentially it's looking like Newcastle will allow Nick Pope to leave. And that's from like literally all Newcastle sources. A lot of the big Man United. You meant Man United, okay. And you said Wissa sold and Darwin Núñez would be a perfect for free. If Darwin Núñez like fits into our wage structure, I think I would take him. I would agree with you, James. Yeah, Pope. Yeah, high now for sure. So absolutely, exactly, James. Pope has moved into the high category in terms of when it comes to a likely exit. So he's joined Matt Target, who I think pretty much should be on the exit part. The only reason I kind of still got him there is because not June the 30th just yet, but he's very likely to go. But yeah, the news around Pope essentially saying that not Man United, Newcastle will allow him to leave. We know that both Leeds and his previous home club, Ipswich, are vying for him with a potential 5 million transfer fee, which I found curious because I've been saying that his contract runs out this season, but I don't know if he's got one more year left or we have an option. But apparently we might get a 5 million transfer fee from it. So I'm all for it. But that adds to the debate around Ewan, the new goalkeeper that's coming in. And you guys will remember I was saying to you, I was previously worried that if Pope stays, for instance, we're definitely not gonna get the likes of Trafford, right? Because Pope would probably be number one with Ewan as number two. And part of my concern was that all the errors and everything else that Pope had that couldn't be we couldn't keep him, and especially his injuries and his lack of ability on the ball meant that we wouldn't be able to evolve our style of play. Now, fair enough, Ewan is decent with his feet, is a good keeper, but he's never played. He's never played in above League Two level of play, so of games. So uh, he definitely wouldn't be ready to be a first team goalkeeper. And I was saying to you guys, if I get Newcastle taking the whole uh, kind of buying young players across Europe, raw talents. But this is too raw. The ingredients haven't been put together, let alone cooked, when it comes to Ewan. Although there's some really good signs about the kind of keeper he will be. So that was my worry. But now that Mr. Pope is on his way out, seemingly, that means essentially what Newcastle have at the moment, with Ramsdale gone, with Ruddy gone, and we're not counting Gillespie. All we'll have at this current moment of time is Ewan. So it leaves space for a first team goalkeeper, a first choice goalkeeper. And I wanted to get you guys' take on that. Like, I was kind of, and I love Pope and he served the club well. But I won't lie, I was relieved to hear that he's leaving, because, like I said, it means we're gonna be evolving our style of play, but also the fact that we are looking to replace him. How we replace him is the question I want to ask you guys. And some of you would have seen my post in relation to, what type of goalkeeper will Newcastle sign? And what I mean is it going to be, experience? Is it going to be potential? Or, or is it going to be a goalkeeper for the next decade, essentially? And without focusing on the names of the goalkeepers too much, why I named these particular goalkeepers, that they represent a different path that Newcastle United could take, right? So what we have to keep in mind, as kind of already said it earlier, Pope is leaving, likely to leave, and Ewan Joanne is set to join. So the landscape is, it leaves room for a first team goalkeeper to enter, right? So what do Newcastle do, essentially? Because you got to think about having a goalkeeper that can handle first team football, but also there leaves competition and an opportunity to become a first team goalkeeper for the likes of Ewan. So do Newcastle take, the long-term number one route, which is, straight up upgrade with the likes of, James Trafford, elite shot stopper, incredible with his feet, homegrown, and definitely the type of player that you can take for 8 to 10 years, going forward. The only concern, if there is a concern, is the transfer fee will be high, 35 to 45 million, and his wages are anywhere between 90 to 120k. I did a little bit of working out myself, and I think the most Newcastle can afford for a goalkeeper with a decent wage at the moment is between 25 to 35 million. But that's if they just take their budget from the goalkeeping department. So they've saved money on Ramsdale, they'll save money on selling Pope, and they'll save money on Ruddy. Could they, earn some extra money from another seller elsewhere that will fund the goalkeeping position? That's another thing. But essentially, would Newcastle take the long-term number one route? I would love for them to do that. I'll say that straight away. For me personally, I want them to just give a straight upgrade. Like I said to you guys, I think last week, Thursday, I think it was, a straight upgrade in the goalkeeping area. A good player, Limin Kamara in your midfield, which I think would be an upgrade on, for instance, on a very good potential upgrade on Willock, and a striker, an upgrade striker as well. But sticking to the goalkeepers, I would love Newcastle to take the long term route with a James Trafford. The other route they could take is the high upside, so a quality, a high potential goalkeeper again in development upsides of your Robin Rissa, who not too dissimilar to Ewan, but he's been playing in the first division of France and I think he's in the French squad as well. And is a very similar age to Ewan. He will cost less as well, and will be able to stick within our budget. But again, I think he's had 1 year from what I can remember in first team football, maybe 2. So still very young. So yes, high upside, but also risk, not as much risk as Ewan, but still risk in terms of going into the Premier League. Or do you take the ready-made starter, but experienced goalkeeper who in the next couple of years will likely make way for a Ewan, who is, the likes, for instance, John Victor from Nottingham Forest, who's, ready, who's in his 30s, he's 30 years old, still a good shot stopper, good with his ball distribution, good with his feet. But like I said, he's more the plan before the plan to make way for your Ewans, who would eventually, who's hopefully by next couple of years will be the elite goalkeeper that we want to have. Or do you go straight up for the succession plan straight away, Ewan, to be your first team goalkeeper? So, like I said, I think that there's huge concerns around that. I don't think that's the path that Newcastle will take. Like I said, I would love Newcastle to take the long-term route and get a James Trafford type of goalkeeper in. I suspect that Newcastle will take the ready-made starter route in the likes of John Victor, for instance, someone who is better than Pope now. He's got the same-ish level of experience, but is better than Pope now, probably a little bit younger, less injuries, hopefully a better shot stopper and better with his feet, and a couple of years ready to leave the pathway for Ewan. I kind of, but will save Newcastle money on the budget. I think that might be the route that Newcastle take. That's the most likely route that Newcastle take. For me personally, I think it's risky. You might enter the realm of, yes, you've bought cheap, but you might also pay in quality for that. And why not just push the boat out now and just get the quality goalkeeper now, and upgrade your team now with your James Trafford? So that would be what I want. What I think the club takes, I think, is the ready-made start. But let me know what you guys think. I'll be keen to get your thoughts. James says, can you meet Murphy to medium, make Murphy medium, and run into low now? He is Bruno confirmed that he doesn't want to move. Who, Murphy or Bruno? Or him and Bruno have confirmed? If him and Bruno have confirmed, James, I'll move them both into low. Oh, Bruno low. Bruno said he doesn't want to leave. Fantastic. Best foreign buy of Newcastle's history. I'll move Bruno into low. In fact, so I remember for the next show. Let me do that now when I'm with you guys. I'm going to move Bruno into low. That was brilliant news. Has that been confirmed? Yeah. Best foreign buy. Absolutely phenomenal. And I so hope that while Bruno is here, we win another trophy and qualify for the Champions League. I think that would do him justice for all that he's done for the club. Big up Registered Kev. You missed the show talking all about your club, man. Did the proper in-depth squad analysis, man. I would have loved to get your take, man. God bless you, sir. James says John Victor not likely to happen. I'm not a big fan of him. Already very big injury problem. You see, and thanks for raising that, James. Um, and that's what I'm talking about, the risks even with the ready-made starters as well. James says, say we get enough that so you're talking 15 million overall you're putting in. Maybe some different James Trafford. We might look for someone different around the age range. Also, someone different to James Trafford, still quality upgrade, but maybe cheaper. Yeah, if those guys are, if that is available to Newcastle, we have to get onto that now. Big up. Thanks for that, Bruno. Best, in my opinion, best foreign buy. Best player from abroad for Newcastle United. Absolutely. Yeah, James, you've probably got, if Newcastle can get an equivalent of James Trafford for less money, that would be brilliant. I'll be surprised if other teams aren't on it, but I would absolutely love that for Newcastle if we're able to achieve that. So let's bring it back up. That's the current status with the goalkeepers. And as James said, Bruno has confirmed that he's staying, so he'll go into the low. I wanted to mention that. I'm going to do my scouting report, but then for some reason, again, I was just looking at over my slides. The actual scouting report that I was doing, or maybe it's not. Let me just double check. I'm worried that that's two missing as well. I had the finances for Man United missing. Hopefully this isn't miss. No, I got it. Brilliant. So we'll go to the scouting report in a minute. I just wanted to see if I got to remind myself if there's anything else in the team I wanted to look at. We talked about the goalkeeping situation. We talked about the defensive situation, guys. And there was news today that, whether you believe it or not, that there's been no approach from Arsenal or City for Livramento. I kind of believe the City side, possibly the Arsenal side too. And we've been talking about it with Livramento's injuries being a real concern for teams. I think a lot of teams are going to be taking a step back as the World Cup starts, because you don't want to buy a player now, him go to the World Cup, get injured, and you've got an injured player. So I think you're going to see a big slowing down in general of any kind of purchases being made of players. You guys will remember that. So there was similar news, for instance, around Victor Munoz and how Victor Munoz is Newcastle's number one priority, but they're going to wait until after the World Cup or whenever Spain get knocked out or win the trophy before they make their purchase. And people were saying that's a risk, but it makes sense, because if you guys remember, for instance, the Whistle situation, we bought Whistle last year. Within a week, I think it was, he went for international duty, got injured, and he was out for the next 3 or 4 months. And even when he did return, he wasn't the same. Newcastle can't afford to make that same mistake again. So wait for the World Cup to finish. Hopefully Victor Munoz is happy and healthy, and make the purchase then. You run the risk of, say Victor Munoz plays and bigger clubs come running for him, and you run the risk of losing him. But I think you take that risk, because the consequences of buying the player now, him getting injured, him not being available, are worse than not buying him and using the resources and the precious resource and finance that we have, and having to essentially spend the first months of his time at Newcastle having to try and rehabilitate the player. So there's that going on. And I think maybe that could be the stance that opposition clubs are taking with Tino Livramento. They want to see, is he robust enough to withstand the World Cup before they make a purchase, because he's had a horrific year for us in terms of injuries. James says they're not willing to pay the price for Tino. I understand though. Yeah, they're not willing to pay the price. And I think they're looking at his injury record as well, and they're thinking, geez, I want to pay 70 million for a guy that's like available between 15 to 20 games a season. Adby, they're not even touching him now due to the ACL. Who's Adby? Oh, Abdi. Yeah, you see, you guys, you saw the Abdi El, the Real Betis player who Newcastle was strongly linked with. We did a scouting report on him. Imagine Newcastle bought him like now, a week ago. And, and this can happen to any team, to any player. And again, I pray for him to have a speedy recovery. But we are trying so hard to avoid the mistakes of last year. And I think even if he was number one, Abdi, in terms of options for Newcastle to buy, which I don't think he is, imagine he got the injury playing a friendly international duty. Imagine Newcastle bought him last week and he got this injury now. Do you know what dire situation that puts us in the left wing forward position? It would be horrific for us, guys. So I just think it's wise for us to wait for the World Cup to finish. There's no guarantees. Again, someone can get injured, whilst on holiday, hit their toe against, the stairs and they're out or whatever. But, that's more understandable compared to, buying now and then losing the play in the World Cup. So I see a lot of slowing down there. More and more reports that Victor Muniz is the number one choice, but we'll see. So that again, that's the perception I have at the moment of Livramento, who's in the World Cup. Lewis Hall isn't in the World Cup, so I can imagine Man United continuing to flirt with him. But I think that's what they're doing at the moment. They're flirting. And we've just looked at their squad, and yes, the left back area, I'm sure they would like to upgrade, but their main areas they want to upgrade is the midfield areas at the moment. So even if Hall was saying, "Take me now, I'm willing to go," which I think he would be open to it, but he's not going to push. And Newcastle are not open to selling him. I don't think Man United are just yet in a financial position where they can risk buying him now, not make the player sales they need to make, and get caught short in their midfield area. So I think that situation is yet to be played out, but it could be, and I still think it's a small chance. But it could be that Newcastle get to keep both of their fullbacks in Tino, Livramento, and Hall. I mean, you guys can see already here, I left the Livramento thing blank because I thought he's going for sure. But that's looking less and less likely. In fact, let me know, guys. Should I put Livramento from high to medium? That's the next question. Should I put Livramento from high to medium? I'm certainly considering it. I'm certainly considering it at this stage. I'm certainly considering it. So let me know about that. Midfield, again, news again around Lamine Kamara. Newcastle will, if Newcastle, yeah, you're right, James, not yet, wait until the World Cup. Exactly. Wait until the World Cup. And I think a lot of teams, if you're wise, if you're a team that is wise, you'll wait until the World Cup. Newcastle put it out there again that if either Willock or Tonali go, they will get Lamine Kamara. Slightly different messaging from what they had early in the transfer window, which is if you see us buying a midfielder like a Lamine Kamara, it's because Willock is leaving, not because Tonali is leaving. Now the messaging is either Tonali or Willock go, and we're going to buy Lamine Kamara, which suggests to me that the chances of Tonali going are beginning to increase at this stage. If Man United can't get Elliot Anderson or Alex Scott is proven too expensive, you can see them going for your Tonalis. And I think all clubs are waiting to see what City purchase Anderson for. That's going to be the reference point for most clubs, in my opinion, as well. So if he goes for 100 million, you're going to see a similar price for Tonali. I personally think it's too much for Anderson, but that's where things are at the moment for him. But again, I would certainly love. I think if we get Lamine Kamara over the line, again, you guys know I'm dreaming of that Lamine Kamara, Lewis Miley pivot with an attacking midfielder in front of them in a 4-2-3-1 position formation. So if that could happen, that would be absolutely phenomenal from my point of view. Bruno, it's been said, is staying. That's absolutely amazing. I'm over the moon about that, honestly. And obviously, Lewis Miley signed a new contract. Again, good news there. With Barcelona, PSG interested in them. So the midfield area seems stable for now. Obviously, Tonali is the big one. I think the only reason Tonali might not go is if Newcastle stick to their 100 million stance on him and he doesn't push for a move, which that's you on there, which remains to be seen if he does that or not. But it'd be curious if Newcastle not only keep Tonali and keep their fullbacks, and we end up only selling, in terms of our blue chip players, we only end up selling Gordon. That would be very unexpected for me. I still think there's a low chance of that happening. I think it's a higher chance that both Tonali and one of our fullbacks leave, to be honest, at this stage. But it's interesting to see how things are beginning to emerge on the other side of things where the players could potentially stay. And in terms of the forward line, obviously, we've got that big gap still remaining. Gordon has been sold, so we need to fill that left wing option position. Mr. Victor Munoz has come out as the overall number one priority. But as we said earlier, it looks like Newcastle are playing taking the wise choice, the wise path, in my opinion, which is to wait after the World Cup and then buy him then. It seems like he's open to it. So let's see how that goes. You guys know that I'm, as much as I still give players a chance, 2 years maximum. But if offers come in for Wissa and or Volta, I would, and I think the club would be open to taking those offers to leave room for a striker. I think Newcastle are looking for a striker for sure. We've talked about the numerous strikers in Delaps, Romolu, Alvaro Rodriguez, Solanke. So there's a lot of options out there for strikers. We need that striker who can hold up the ball, can run in between the lines. Hopefully, got a decent shot volume rate, decent conversion rate, and essentially, I think that's where the key upgrade is in the goalkeeping area and in the striking area. So it remains to be seen. I know there's offers for Wissa. We've heard there's offers from Turkey for Wissa. Whether he will take it or not is a different thing. Voltamar is a curious thing because nobody's going to pay the 70, 80 million that we paid for him. Would Newcastle take a loan option? We will see. And the right wing area, Murphy's got 2 years on his contract. Are Newcastle open to selling him? I imagine they would be. And even though there's been no kind of news about that, I imagine they would be. And I wonder if maybe a newly promoted side would be interested because, like I said, the output on the right-hand side has been desperately bad. And that could change with a better striker up front, or that could change by just changing either Elanga or Murphy for a different type of profile of right wing forward. So, but at the moment, I've got them both at very low when it comes to leaving until we see anything different. So, but we'll see. We'll see where we're at with that. So yeah, we did a little bit of a breakdown. Like I said, we've been linked to your various players in the left wing, right wing areas as well. Let's get into it. Let's get into the scouting profile. Now, I want to talk about this young man before we close up, and that is Jacobo Ramon. He came up on The Athletic yesterday. I hadn't seen any news or reports on him anywhere outside of The Athletic or anything else like that. So it was an interesting one. And I wonder if you guys have heard of him. In fact, he's so um, it's very difficult to find any scouting reports on him. So I've had to actually use just pure raw data and metrics, which gives us part of the picture, but as we know, not all of the picture. And that's why scouting reports can give us a lot more detail, what people actually see the player do. So we're going to lack that a little bit. So it's going to be like, if anything, I look at this as a first part of a two-part series of but I haven't, but not have. Once we get a little bit more scatter reports from others, I'll be able to provide a second part of it. James says we've spoken about him, but we've not scaled him yet. Yeah, briefly we spoke about him as well. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. We didn't get to kind of really talk about him. We haven't scouted him yet. Yeah, but there's no kind of scatter reports online on him, which is annoying. Big up to my man Woolbridge. Good to see you, sir. God bless you. Let me know if you know Jacobo Ramon. In fact, let me just do, while I'm with you guys, I'll do one more search for any scouting reports on Jacobo Ramon that I can use. But it's such a curious thing because even players that are 16, 17, 18, you would find something on them, a report from somewhere. Apologies, guys. But there isn't anything really on him. There isn't really anything. No one's really done. You'd either have scouting, you'd have breaking lines or JC Kuleg from the scouting up doing something, but there isn't a scouting report that we can read from. That I could use. I'm just trying to see. It's all mainly transfer news. What is he? Yeah, there's not much there. What I'll do is just looking over here. I'll use a little bit of what they've got on, what they've gathered on the old Google, but I prefer not to do that. I always like a good old-fashioned scouting report. But Jacobo Ramon was linked to us by The Athletic, so there's good kind of solid information on the back of that. He is a Real Madrid academy player who was loaned out to Como. And he's had an outstanding season for Como. Well, Como in general had an outstanding season, to be fair to them. Obviously, there's also, as always, competition from Liverpool and everybody else. Jeez Louise. But he again fits the profile of the young players we've been looking at. across Europe in terms of gems as well. So I'll give a. I really don't like looking at, but let's have a brief read of him, and then I'll look at the metrics and then see what you guys are saying. Um, what's happened? Someone said Lee Ryder now. Lee Ryder. What did Lee Ryder say? If he's a youth academy player, then Ben Mattison. Phil, Ben Mattison probably has something on him. Martinson. Ben Martinson. Has he got like a website or something? Let me see. I'll research. Sorry, guys. I'll try to get. Give me a moment. I'll see Ben Martinson. Football scout. Is he a football scout? Must be a football scout. Yeah, he's a football scout. How do I know if he's got anything on him? Yeah, he does. Well, he mentions him. He mentions him. Let me show you this guy. I'll do the little bits of what Ben Martinson says. No, Matson is football scout, Arsenal fan, now works at Como scouting department. He must be having a great time at Como, to be honest. So I'm just looking at his website. No, excuse me, his X account, and there's kind of varying bits of information, so it's not all at one. So essentially, this is him in July 2021, 2025. He mentions Jacobo Ramon. Says Madrid really produced a whole back four world-class potential from La Fabrica. Yeah, it's likely none of them will get a chance. One of them being Jacobo Ramon. And actually, when I was searching, there was a headline, and again, a headline. You need to read the article. Jacobo Ramon saying it's unlikely that he'll play for. It's unlikely that he will play for Madrid, which is interesting. Since this thread, Jacobo Ramon broke through at Real Madrid. It's time. So there's that bit there. When he says this thread, what does he say about Jacobo Ramon? No, it doesn't look like he's got anything on him. Let's see. It does say this is in 2024, so he's been looking at it for ages, like 2 years ago even. So the one day he went to Como, so despite being 6'3", he's tall. Jacobo Ramon moves so smoothly on the ball. He loves to carry the ball out of the defense with his long, powerful strides. But Ramon is so composed on the ball and press resistant. So that gives you a good take on in terms of what kind of defender he is. Good on the ball, build up play, and press resistant. Okay. I need to see if I can't, because I can't do it now. I can't see what the full report is. But let me share my the old Google, what we can get there, and then we'll look at his metrics briefly. And remember what Ben Mattison said: he's good on the ball, very good on the ball, and press resistant. So Mr. Ramon is currently one of Europe's most intensely monitored central midfielders, following his breakout 25-26 campaign under Says Fabregas at Como, standing at, he's now 6'5", so he's grown even since he's 18, obviously. The 21-year-old Spanish youth international blends elite traditional physical stature with his highly technical requirements of a modern ball playing centre back. His performances have triggered a transfer market tug of war among Premier League clubs like Arsenal, Chelsea, and Newcastle United. That's okay. While Real Madrid ponder and activate a 6.9 million buyback clause, so they've got buyback clause in all their players. So if you have to deal with Como, you have to deal with Real Madrid. So Como must have bought him then. Below is an in-depth tactical report examining his player profile. All right, so in possession and build-up profile. So under Fabregas, Como utilizes a strict possession-based system where centre-backs serve as primary progressors. Ramon operates comfortably as a deep playmaker. Sounds a bit like Shaw. Elite passing volume. He averages 91.4% accurate passing accuracy. I don't know if that's according to Squawka. Across the Serie A season, routinely ranking in the top tier for total completed passes. He rarely panics under an opponent's high press, which is good. Line-breaking vision. He excels at finding central midfielders in pockets of space rather than sideway recycling. And long-range diagonals. Yeah, it sounds like Shaw. Utilizing his right foot, he has a signature diagonal switch to isolate left winger in one of your scenarios, executing long passes at a highly respectable 51% completion rate. That's very good, actually. You can already see why Newcastle are looking at him. Out of position style and defending. Ramon is a proactive front foot stopper rather than a passive sweeper. This has got a bit of Malik Chow about him. Prefers extinguishing attacking players before they settle in the final third. So step up interceptions. He's got a good recovery. His recovery speed is remarkable for a player's height. So that's why they play him in the back three. Leveraging stride length similar to Virgil van Dijk. His long strides allow him to make up ground quickly in transitioning attackers. So it's really athletic, and got pace or stride length. Box protection. When falls deep, his physical block and clearing metrics are superb, acting as a natural shield against crosses. Again, very important for us to play in midfield. Aerial capabilities, dominance by volume. His sheer frame makes him a constant weapon during set pieces. He has registered over 110 successful aerial duels in the league campaign and scored 2 goals from corners. So sounding very, very good here. Flaws and areas of development. Tactical discipline, recklessness. His instinct to defend aggressively on the front foot occasionally leads him to overcommitting. Malik Chow gets that as well. He's picked up 11 yellow cards and 1 red card, primarily for tactical fouls for getting caught on the high pitch. Maybe that's somebody that we need to return us back to the dark arts. And the other one is where is it? Over-reliance on physical recovery. Because he's fast enough to recover from mistakes in Serie A, he occasionally takes loose positional risks that elite world-class attackers could expose in the Champions League or Premier League. So, yeah, what you can do in Italy, you can't do in the Premier League. Essentially is the lesson there. But if he's making calculated risks and it's paying off for him, who are we to judge? But it is something to look out for. Now, I wanted to share some of his metrics in a moment, but let me just see if you guys have got anything in the chat. If not, it's all good. Oh yeah, we are into Wanyeri. Wobojog, we are into Wanyeri. So this is let me take this off. This is so I wanted to show Como's stats first. So this is Como. I think they got third or fourth in the Italian league and qualified for the Champions League. Outstanding season. So, as said in the reports, a high possession team in the 88.1 percentile. So, pretty much in the elite levels for possession. Exceptional at defending, 95 percentile in the defending areas, of which Mr. Ramon, Jacobo Ramon, was a big part of. So there's something there. They're also high in the pressing. So high in possession and high in pressing is very, very impressive. It reminds me of a City type of stats here. Again, good for goals, good for attacking, decent to good for physicality as well. So really an outstanding team in terms of how their stats bear out. So high possession team, high pressing team, hence why they got Jacobo Ramon on the front foot quite a bit there as well. And their defensive stats are elite as well. Robojox says, Phil, I don't trust how to give him minutes, given his preference for more physical players in general. I'd be worried about his minutes if he goes to a Newcastle for a loan. I wouldn't be, because the second highest under 21 player for minutes, the second highest minutes for under 21 player in the Premier League is Lewis Hall, just behind Nico O'Reilly. I think there's a myth, a growing myth, stemming from Newcastle fans, annoyingly, that Eddie Howe doesn't play young players. Considering Ramon is 21 and will be 22 by the time he gets to Newcastle, you've got Lewis Hall, second most played under 21 player. Livramento would be there as well had it not been for injuries. Lewis Miley would also be there had it not been for injuries. And maybe that's the problem when you do overuse certain young players. They get injured, so you have to be careful with them. But I think it's a myth that Eddie Howe wouldn't play him if he's good enough. It doesn't matter how young he is. If he's good enough, he'll play for sure. He would absolutely play. And I think that's the selling that if Newcastle are interested in him and other young players, our selling point can't be you'll come in this year and you'll mainly be on the bench and you'll play 5 to 10 games. That is not a selling point. The selling point is going to be, we've changed our strategy. You are going to be playing, and we intend for you to be playing and to be a key part of the squad, and you'll be competing, and you will be, if you're good enough, you'll be playing regularly. That's what they'll be offering, a lot of minutes, really, in my opinion. So I'm pretty confident that he'll play. So looking at these metrics, and from what we know about Jacobo Ramon, is a ball-playing centre-back, right centre-back, or hybrid centre-back that can play. Can also play left centre-back as well, but right centre-back in possession-based system, which is Como. So why he stood out at Como? So he's an elite distributor, 91 percentile. So we're going to talk about him a little bit here in a moment. So he's a 91 percentile for his passing and his percentile passing. 95 percentile for that forward passing, which he's been doing since he was Real Madrid Academy player. He's a progression specialist, 84 percentile for progressive passes, 81 percentile for progressive carries, and is comfortable under pressure. So he fits the build-up. He fits build-up football and playing through the press, which is what we were trying to get through Gehi when we were trying to get him, which Malik Chow is very good at as well. He's got strong aerial presence at 84 percentile, and he's played significant minutes, which is 3,000 minutes at age 21. Lewis Hall's played more minutes. Just saying, Wobberjuk says, Wobberjuk says, my point isn't age, it was physical development, which Hall clearly has, versus 1 year in midfield with Joe Linton, Bruno Tonali. Even Miley looks more physical than him. You make a good point, and absolutely. I haven't. We're going to see highlights of him in a moment. We'll be interested to see what Eddie Howe's looking from. You make a good point. If he's getting barged off the ball, if he's not strong enough in aerial duels, then yeah, that'll be something that they'll work on. But that wouldn't be just like a how problem. I think that would be any manager in the Premier League situation for him. So unless he doesn't want to come to the Premier League and maybe go to stay in Italy essentially, that's something that he has to come to terms with if he wants to play in the best league in the world. So the context for his metrics. So Como were a high possession, aggressive pressing side that asked the defenders to attack, start attacks rather than simply defend, and we saw that from the brief scouting reports that we read. His numbers reflect a defender who is progressive, technically secure, and comfortable stepping into midfield. Yeah, and we've read that as well. Though he's got to improve his dual success, which is still developing. But let me see his dual success. Okay, jeez Louise. I think that's what I mean by physical attributes. His defensive duel rate at 23.3%. Possession 1 is at 8.9%. That's horrific. Mainly for the dual defensive rate, because the more physical side of things. I wonder why it's like that. Yeah, that's something he definitely needs to improve for sure. Where were we? Something to do with physicality. Yeah, ball progression currently stronger than pure defending. Needs experience against elite forwards, which you'll get at Newcastle. So yeah, it might be a slower development in terms of that. What you're saying, Wilbur, but yeah, if he joins, that means he's ready. He's ready to be molded. He's ready to be molded. Yeah, playing for Newcastle's fit. So current system versus our 4-2-3-1 evolution. This is the interesting part, and hear what you guys are saying here, because so in our current system, his fit would be okay, would be good. So he'll help Newcastle build from the back. He'll improve our progression in midfield. He can break opposition press with passes and carries. At the moment, we're okay, but we can improve in that. And he's strong enough aerially to play more direct than Como. However, in the current system, that 4-3-3, typical 4-3-3, current Newcastle often play more direct than Como. So we're not a possession side, we're a transition side. And he would need to be more dominant. He would need a more dominant defensive partner alongside him, i.e. Botman, if we're playing 2 at the back. But you'll also have Chow and Botman if we're playing 3 at the back. So there is that kind of situation. So his best fit would be to play next to Botman, for instance, as well. If we played in a 4-2-3-1, though, this is where Mr. Jacobo Ramon could really, you could see the best out of him. Because in the 4-2-3-1, there'll be a great emphasis for Newcastle to be in possession, building through centre backs, progressing into the double pivots, and sustaining higher attacks high up the pitch. This is where Mr. Ramon's strengths really lie. So the 4-2-3-1, he's able to have pass responsibility, more opportunities to carry the ball forward, better use of progressive passing profile, and less reliance on constant recovery defending. And I have to say that more and more players that we're looking at, especially those from abroad, the young players from abroad, the more I ask to consider how they would fit Newcastle in a 4-2-3-1 versus how Newcastle would fit playing with Newcastle in a 4-3-3. The majority of them better suit our play in a 4-2-3-1. So I wonder if more and more, I'm believing that Newcastle are going to be playing some version of a 4-2-3-1 in the next season. So, projection, current Newcastle team, he'll be a rotation centre-back with a starter potential. In a 4-2-3-1, though, he'll be a long-term ball-playing starter. His ceiling is modern Champions League level possession centre-back who improves Newcastle's ability to control games, which is exactly what we're looking for, rather than simply transition through them. So, modern ball-playing centre-back, essentially. And with a high upside and high potential, if he wants to take the chance in the Premier League, and this is where maybe Newcastle have a little bit of a chance of getting him above other teams like Liverpool, because I think Liverpool will be looking, for instance, Liverpool and teams of that nature will be looking for more established centre-backs, Premier League proven, Premier League ready centre-backs, rather than the potential of what Jacobo Ramon will provide. So before we go, let's have a look at his highlights, and I'll go to the chats in a moment. But let's have a look at his highlights and see what he's saying. Big up again to Brazil Scout. I don't know any of the play. Well, actually, I've heard of them, but I don't know that well that he's similar to Ashley Phillips. I've heard of him. Mikoslavic, I think it is Mikoslavic, and Sebastian Coates. That's who he's been compared to. Yeah, there's a lot of interest in Vladikamos. Hopefully, that'll we'll get that done over the line. If Sandra goes, who would we like to join in the double pivot? Lamine Kamara, Adrian. I am dreaming of a Lewis Smiley, Lamine Kamara double pivot. Absolutely. All right, so let's have a quick butchers of his highlights. 6'5". I can definitely see him in the back three. I was him stepping up there again in the flank areas. Doesn't mind going out wide and defending, which can be scary for some. He's been doing it. Let's see why it's not too bad there. But again, I'm keeping in mind that his physical duel winning rate is not good. There's that passing. Phenomenal. That was a brilliant pass. I wonder how many assists he's got. He did that with his left foot. There's that switch that we talked about as well, that gets the wingers and one-on-ones. And again, starting player. That's what Eddie Howe's looking at, that ability, that build-up play right there. Again, decent there, recovery. Lovely take. And I think that's exactly what Eddie Howe's looking for. He reminds me more and more of Shaw, except for he's 6'5" and got more pace and athleticism. The initial scouting reports didn't mention that his physical duel winning would be that low. So I just keep on wondering why it's that low. Is either he's a weakling, not a weakling, but maybe what Wojciech was saying earlier about developing his physicality. It can't be that bad, surely. Because they've got an excellent defense, good box presence there. You see him a lot going out wide and defending. Very present in both sides of the box as well. It looks like Como playing a back three and he plays on the right side of that back three. Again, lovely footwork there. I think he can play. I think he can start. I think he can start, especially if we play a back three. I think he can start. Because if you have him, Chow, Botman, our build-up play would be ridiculous. That's not to say that his low dual winning isn't a concern. It definitely is. But he's so good at setting up attacks. So good at setting up attacks. Brilliant there. All right, so let me see what he's done. Lovely interception. Lovely interception there. Brilliant. So let me know, folks. What would you guys take him? What do you make of the player? Jamal from Colorado, good to see you, sir. God bless you. He says, excuse me, Jacobo Ramon isn't the main distributor from the back of Focomo. He usually pushes up into the midfield during the build-up. And that will probably be interesting in terms of why. This is why more and more I think we're going to play a 4-2-3-1, because if he pushes up into the midfield, then we'll have whoever's in the pivot push up as well, either Malia or Kamara. So adding more. Any idea, Jamal? If you sound like you watch him, any idea? Because his metrics, I don't know if you sound like you watch him, Jamal, but any idea why why Jacobo's defensive duel, his defensive duel percentages are so low, like incredibly low, like worrying. 23.3% is relegation form, if you put it that way. And his possession stats are 8.9 percentile. I wonder if that's partly due to perhaps being in the very highly possession-based team. But why his defensive duel stats are so low? I'll be keen to get your thoughts before we wrap up, if you can. James says Como is one of the best teams in Italy. Absolutely. Wobojog says, Phil, I hear you, and if he goes to you guys, hope it works out. Got a feeling he'll go Luton. Would you say Luton? Think Wisher is trying to bring him in to Luton, did you say? Also Defra. Wobojog, I don't know what you mean. I know it's late at night, so it might be tired. But Luton and Defra? You gotta let me know. Jamal Corrado says, okay, so Como can play both 3-4-3 and 4-2-3-1 and are able to change at a drop of a hat. Yeah, that's Fabregas. That's Fabregas doing his thing. That's so interesting. I'm gonna try and catch a Como game. In fact, you got me into it, Jamal. I might just see if I can catch a Como game before I sleep. James says, I'll take it as a third backup. Would he want to come as a third backup? That's the thing, isn't it? Wobo Jog says, Phil, also defensive stats are very context-dependent style of play game state. If the defender isn't the starter, etc., etc. Absolutely. And that's what I'm trying to get the context. He's played nearly 3,000 minutes. So I'm going to assume he's a starter. He's played nearly 3,000 minutes. And this is in the Serie A alone. This isn't all competitions. This is in Serie A. So I'm guessing that he is a starter. I wonder, though, if it's something to do with Como being such a possession-heavy side, pressing high as well. So I imagine, for instance, his turnovers are really high and really good. Oh, yes, Luton. He might go, boy. Jamal says low aerial duel stats, probably because Diego Carlos is the main man for defending aerial. But why? Thanks for that, Jamal. But why is his? So this is where is it? His so his defensive duels. So defensive duels cover on the ground. So you got the aerials next to him, which isn't too bad. But his defensive duel stats, which is which is on the ground. I'm really curious as to know why that particular one's so low. All right, folks. So we've had an incredible show. As always, you guys hung in there with me as well. From a lot of you guys from start to finish, we did a breakdown of the Man United, of their finances, which are revenue-wise phenomenal, expense-wise. Still work to do, but they're actively trying to do it. But they're still in a situation, in my opinion, where they have to definitely sell to buy, or buy to sell. Sell to buy. Sell before they can buy, really, in my opinion. Even though they might. So I think that'll be the key thing. And they're getting players off their list, Casemiro and Højlund, for instance. So there's a lot there. They have had an incredible season in terms of how the team and the system of the team has performed. With some individual brilliance from the likes of Bruno Fernandes. But they need, in my opinion, 4 to 5 players who can provide real quality and depth if they're going to manage that Champions League campaign and domestic campaigns as well. Because at the moment, their squad can only manage. They've had 8 players covering 60% of their games, and they need more than that. But otherwise, it's going to be an interesting transfer window for them. Let's see what they achieve on the back end of this transfer window as well. But they have a good system, and I think they're heading in the right direction. We then did another kind of overview of Newcastle's transfer, how the transfer window is shaping up, looking at their squad, looking at the team, different. Some areas we've had the movement of Nick Pope very much looking like he's leaving, so that leaves a room for a first-team goalkeeper to enter. What pathway Newcastle take? Upgrade, starter, replacement, high potential is up for grabs to see what it is. I hope it's a straight-up upgrade like a James Trafford or the equivalent, though my mind is telling me they're going to take a starter like someone who's younger than Pope, but has less, mileage, shall we say, and is better with their feet. But we'll see. Then we did a scouting report on Mr. Jacobo Ramon, the 21-year-old Madrista playing for Como. Had a really good season for Como. Has showed a lot of potential from a very young age. A ball playing CB, right CB. And a lot of conversations from us, all of us. Would Howe play him? Is he physically ready? Certainly, there's some really good ingredients there for him to be a really good centre back. I personally would be very open for him to come to Newcastle if that were to happen. But we will find out. As always, folks, though, we've got more to come this Thursday. Another show to be looking forward to. But as always, guys, you've been phenomenal. Ringing off the chat, liking, sharing, subscribing. I want to make sure you have a fantastic day, evening, whatever you're doing, wherever you are. Make sure you look after each other, and God bless you all, folks. Take care.